Hey, Carrie.
I was here for about an hour.
When I start the presentation or I talk to Corey, could you turn that one light switch off that's closest to us? It's the one bang. He said so.
That's a great point. Yeah.
Just the one. That'll close that and make it stand out a little more.
It's pretty great. We're very lucky that my grandparents set aside that field. Because back in the early 1900s, historic to this, but they, tight farming outdoors, so they started to sell off some land. So that helped kind of keep the farm afloat. So and they thought to set aside, so they set aside one lot for each of the 4 boys and one for themselves. And that's what we're saying.
Wow, so they must have quite close.
Yeah,
You didn't get the whole farm.
Yep. If only.
Alright, sorry, I could have did that. You didn't know that I exercised on my way here? Oh, do you want a cup?
Yeah.
Does anybody else want water?
I do.
While I'm up?
Yeah. Water bottle.
Lorraine, do you want a cup of water?
I'll get them.
Okay.
Where are the cups? I'll get them.
I got it. I don't even know the water. I chair, I serve, I heckle, girl many talents.
Thank you.
So,
Why we want to get out of here tonight?
well, no, but I want to try and keep this focused.
Yeah, good for you.
Okay, thanks.
It's true last night here. So.
Yeah, no, that's fine. This is our attention. Good, Nick? Okay. Yeah.
Harvest Run, we're looking at it. They've had it run for the last 2 years with no problem. Insurance from the Smiths Fire Association, so I don't know what it is.
Okay.
I've emailed our insurance provider, and I'll send out an email as soon as I know more.
Oh, do you want to sign on the
Oh, I
trail?
know. We're going next weekend.
Yep. Oh, did you leave me a voicemail?
No, but I saw a missed call from you, so it was just I didn't hang up in time. But
No, that's okay. I was calling to see if you'd pick me up so I didn't have to run here.
yeah, sorry.
Don't worry about it. Do you want me to do that one too?
Sure.
What is it?
Police radio.
On my part.
Okay. What am I doing? Adjournment and Parkview and Parkview. You want to second those?
Yeah, sure. Pretty uneventful.
Okay.
I don't think he's coming. He's right there. Oh, is he? Oh, good for him. He was saying he wasn't sure.
Oh, look at that. Chris is making an application for Canadian infrastructure funding for the library.
Oh, good. Better that than community grant.
I love how every time I sit down for a council meeting, he starts texting me. I'm like you don't know where I am.
Because he's got that free Monday.
No, Chris Cummings. I'm like, maybe. Maybe it like dawns on his brain. He's like, oh, council business. Yeah. Okay, so I gotta make an announcement about to Committee of the Whole. This is a special meeting of Committee of the Whole for September 3rd, 2019. It is a little after 5. My apologies for the delay. We do have one short announcement before we get into the contents of the agenda. Just a note that the elevator appears to not be working properly. So if you have accessibility needs that require the use of the elevator, please see our van hire, who is not present. He's probably people right now, or another member from the staff table, and they would be happy to help you. Okay. Any amendments to the agenda tonight? Hearing none. Disclosure of monetary interest? None. Delegations? None tonight. Adoption of the minutes? We have none due to the nature of the meeting. We have no CAO or directors reports this evening. Correct. We have one correspondence item, which I believe is posted on the town's website. It is a letter dated June 13th, 2019 from Mary Kate Ritson. Is that the proper date on that? No. It's the August 13th? August 27th. August 27th. Thank you. The topic is correspondence respecting Becca Street. Recommended action is for council review. I believe we have all been circulated and reviewed the content. That brings us to priority tonight. Our single issue up for discussion tonight is accessibility update on Becca Street. And I invite Director Dunlop. For online? Okay, so we'll make sure that we speak out. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The purpose of the presentation this evening is just to update Council on the activities that have occurred in terms of investigations around accessibility. As many of you recall, we had a delegation back in July 8th expressing concerns about the complete street design at that time, and we have essentially done some follow-up investigative work on Council's direction, and as I've previously updated, we had a accessible working group session on August the 15th, and the presentation materials I'll be going through with you this evening is essentially the same slide deck that was presented at that session. So I'm going to take you through that information. That'll tell you where the committee started as a discussion point around accessible design on Beckwith Street, and we will follow up at the end with how the accessible working group has responded in terms of a improved design. Thank you very much. So the start of the accessible workshop involved an overview of looking at what our discussion points would be. In this first slide, essentially one of the things that we did with the cross-section of members at that committee group was to do an overview of provincial policy and municipal policy as it relates to accessibility. It was important that everybody had a framework and an understanding on where things began. We also then had a discussion on accessibility considerations that are involved in the overall complete street design. We also reviewed the council-approved Beckwith Street redevelopment plan vis-a-vis on the topic of accessibility. And then we had an open discussion near the end to have an open and candid conversation about are there ways we can make this design better and more accessible. So as part of the regulations overview, we identified, of course, the Accessibility for Ontarians with Disabilities Act from 2005. And in particular, there is a very key regulation that was rolled out in 2011 called the Integrated Accessibility Standards. It's very important that everyone is aware that that standard provides, as an example, a very clear direction in terms of accessible parking on private property or private lands, but it does not provide any specific guidance for on-street parking design. So part of a challenge in doing street design is we just simply do not have the guidance on that area. These are sections of the reg. I believe this exact slide also appeared in Marshall Hogan's presentation back on July 8th. And again, it outlines our responsibilities to consult. In our previous discussions, we certainly had a shortfall in terms of our outreach to the accessible community. We did have public meetings, but of course, we certainly didn't get that target audience identified. Enhance the discussions before council in the last couple of months regarding the development of an accessibility committee. So when we look at our internal policies in terms of accessibility, we do have the official plan, and in particular, the clauses that you see up on the board there. The key one is in bullet point 2. When we're designing streets, we want to ensure that we have convenient travel will ensure mobility for people of all ages and abilities. So there's our key overlying objectives in the official plan around street design. The town also has bylaw 8280-2010 that was also passed by the municipality that outlines accessibility standards for customer service policy. Not so much policy guiding our detailed design for streets, but again, an overriding policy in how we conduct our business as a corporation. So this slide provides an overview on accessibility. It's not as simple as it seems. There's a lot of elements that in combination make things accessible. You've got signage that indicates where these spaces are located, pavement markings, other key opportunities to notify people where designated spaces are. There's clear travel width for chairs to move, and some of the photos you see inset in the slide are plucked out of a City of Ottawa manual. They are reflective of the provincial integrated accessibility standard. The grades are very critical, and that's a challenge when you're rebuilding streets. Generally, you've got a centerline grade you have to match, in addition to side streets, so you're locked into those grades, but certainly you want to stay within the guidelines for accessibility when you do your sidewalks. Curb depressions, etc. So these in combination are the features that in combination make accessibility critical in a downtown. The slide that you're seeing up on the presentation here right now is an outline of the two standards that exist for private property. When it comes to the integrated accessibility standard, there's a type A space and a type B space. A type A space has an overall design width of 4.9 meters, and that is essentially the width required for, say, an accessible van with a side ramp. Type B would be every other standard of user with a overall dimensional width of 3.9 meters. So just to give context, those are the width of the two types of spaces that can be utilized on private property. So one of the things that Parsons' team did look into was other standards that are out there. Like, as I mentioned earlier in the presentation, there are simply no clear-cut, cookie cutter, we'll call them, designs for on public streets. One of the key publications that designers often look to is the GATES publication, and just so for everyone, to make everyone familiar, the GATES is the Global Alliance on Accessible Technologies and Environments. So it's an international organization that has a vision of universal accessible design worldwide. So a very key publication to look to when taking inspiration on designs. And in the GATES design, as an example, when they talk about parking on parallel parking on streets, the consideration they make mention of is a 1,500 millimeter or a 5-foot wide access aisle beside the spaces to meet those objectives. There's also, of course, a desire to incorporate features like ramps so that people can move with mobility aids and don't have to travel a lengthy distance off the roadway from parked vehicle to the curb ramp. Another publication out there that gets looked at south of the border is the Federal Highways Administration design guideline. They have, as an example on the slide there, you'll see an integrated design that accommodates parking that has both side ramp deployment and rear ramp deployment. The key dimensions that I want to focus you in on the U.S. design here is a 7.5 meter long space to allow the ramp to come out the rear, and a 3.9 meter width. Again, that's taking cues from the Gates design guideline for a 5-foot ramp off the side of the space. This design that you're seeing on the slide does not represent what we're doing on Beckwith Street, but it does provide some context and inspiration in terms of how we address accessibility. So one of the other considerations that we talked about at the Accessible Working Group is what are the types of vehicles that serve accessible needs, and what is the target vehicle that we're looking to design for. We had the Lanark Transportation Association involved in the working group. They were a great resource. They provided an outline of their services locally and across Lanark County. So the different types of vehicles, of course, that are out there are more of a public transit type bus. You've got vans, and here's some examples here of the side ramp deployment and rear ramp deployment. These are a lift design. Probably the most common type of vehicle out in the market today is the van with the side ramp, and you'll see an example of that in this slide. This as an example, would be very comparable to the van that Mr. Hogan uses as well. And you see some real odd and customized vehicles out there in the market, and Muskoka, as an example, has a customized vehicle here that they use to move people around the community as well. So in general, when we start to look at side ramp loading, because that's a key part of the discussion and the original concern with the design, again, if you take cues from the Federal Highways Administration, they indicate that 3.9 meters is a target width, and that, of course, would include that 1.5 meter passenger side aisle access. But where things fall short is this design, of course, is not offloading next to a bike lane, so therein lies some of the challenges that come up. And again, to rear ramp loading, again, when it comes to the Beckwith Street design, we are taking inspiration from the Federal Highway Association and building these spaces, six in total, that would have 7.5 meter lengths to provide that ability that simply just doesn't exist anywhere in the downtown today for the rear ramp loading. And one of the conversations that come up that we don't think about is there's other types of lift devices and deployments that happen from vehicles, and these are the things that we should be taking in consideration when we're looking at parking. As an example, a longer space would allow hoists to lift scooters in and out. And you can also appreciate the challenges of this type of arrangement, perhaps with the angle parking. So let's have a quick look at our street today. As an example, in front of the Bank of Montreal, we do have a designated space identified there. One of the challenges that we have with our spaces today is they're not as wide as they could or should be. Quite often when cars are parked in these spaces, they are actually obstructing the full frontage of the curb in front. And in the case of this slide here, if someone was to deploy from a side ramp, they literally would be going down to the corner to get off the street at the nearest ramp. So some shortfalls there. Another scenario, again, we have another space. It is designated, it is reserved, but it fails many of the other tests in terms of overall width and just simply not meeting the test of having the ability to deploy ramps from the side. going back to that Federal Highway Administration guideline of 7.5 meters, like in order to have a rear deploying ramp, you just simply can't accommodate that in an angle configuration. That would put you well out into the traffic. One of the things we heard at the Accessible Working Group is, and perhaps we overlook these things, is quite often people have assistive aids in their trunks of their vehicles, and quite often they would have to leave their leave the driver's seat, go back, and perhaps grab a device, whether it be a stroller or otherwise, out of the trunk, and in many cases in traffic. So some challenges there to consider. As far as our overall accessible count on the street today, we've got 6 designated spaces, of which 4 are accessible for side ramp only. I would say that would meet that test. And of course, the first phase of Beckwith Street, which would be from Russell Street to Chambers Street, would match that net yield of 6 in terms of a target. So the proposed design, let's go back. This is the proposed design that takes us back to the summer. So this is the concern that was expressed. So this is just a snapshot of a typical intersection in the downtown. And you'll see the cycle tracks do cross the side streets a further distance back, and then they meander towards that 0.7 meter setback as it goes up the street, and that's what they term the dooring buffer, which is a design standard. Where this design did fall short with Mr. Hogan's presentation was the notion of shared space in that cycle lane, and after having conversations with the committee and with Mr. Hogan directly, it's clear that there is time involved in when you deploy a ramp and you exit a ramp, and I think the occupation of a cycle track for an extended period was a concern, not to mention the ability to see oncoming cyclists. So therein lies the challenge with the design as you see it here, and these are some of the concerns that we brought back to the Accessible Working Group for discussion. So this slide shows you the design as of the date of the original delegation when concerns were expressed. So we do have the 7-meter length, so we're well served in terms of a new ability for rear ramp deployment to be served in the downtown. But you'll see on the side ramp that essentially deploys onto the cycle track, and therein lies the concern. Now, oddly enough, that 3.9 meter dimension does match the Federal Highway Administration width target. But again, when you look at the accessibility guidelines out there and you look at the cycling guidelines out there, there's some great standards, but the two don't seem to speak very well in terms of when these things are put in combination. So 3.9 meters simply fell short in terms of addressing those concerns. And as previously mentioned, the typical arrangement that you see in urban areas on cycle tracks is as denoted on this slide. The cyclist does have to yield to pedestrians. And again, as previously mentioned, there was a discomfort in that arrangement as it related to accessibility spaces. So other features in the downtown design, we do have a barrier-free curb that was introduced into the design, and that was introduced at the request of the current and present council. The feature you see on this slide was not, as an example, part of the final recommended design for the complete street, so this is a new feature. New as obviously earlier in the summer. So between, if you can picture it, the left side would represent where the parked cars would be, and the right side, of course, would be the cycle track, and in between there would be a 8-to-1 vertical slope over that dooring zone that would separate the two. So that feature was added, the design was adapted, and in essence made all of the parking barrier-free. Experience from other areas. I think it's important that we just have awareness of other design concepts out there. Again, we presented this to the working group to have a better understanding of different variations of cycle tracks. So what you see here is the NACTO Urban Street Guide. That is that represents the National Association of City Transportation Officials. So again, you're looking at a textbook drawing out of a U.S. publication in terms of a concept. In general, you see a lot of the common themes: the parking, the buffer, the cycle track, and again, an organizing strip in between where you would have your trees, planters, bike racks, etc., much following what the complete street design is today. Main Street, Ottawa, a very interesting slide here presents the parking on the side. You have actually a barrier curb that separates those parked vehicles and the buffer and the cycle track there. Of interest is this design, as an example, went through the Ottawa's Accessibility Committee and did get the green light. So again, in absence of clear, detailed designs, there's certainly a large amount of subjectivity in terms of what accessible design suits what community, and in this case, this suited the City of Ottawa. We also have Churchill Avenue in Ottawa as an example. Again, here's Sherbourne Street in Toronto. Now, we're not Toronto, but I think the story that this slide presents is that essentially cycle tracks are shared space, and quite often you'll see public transit will deploy, as an example, passengers onto them. Bloor Street in Toronto, again, different version. You got Missoula, Montana, very similar arrangement that has a bit of a rollover curb design. Western Avenue in Boston, this design concept, again, barrier curbs you'll see in that feature, and that design, as an example, was award-winning in the U.S. It was recognized as one of the best cycle tracks in recent years. Cambridge, Massachusetts, another example there. So we had a discussion with the committee about, where do we go from here? We didn't want to have the accessible working group. We didn't want to come in with concepts. It was important that we drew a discussion from the participants and try to get different perspectives on how we address the concerns that were raised. So we didn't come in with any concepts. We went through all this background information, and we started to get some good ideas in terms of how to address these. General takeaways from the accessible working group: there was agreement that the partial sharing of side loading ramp areas with the cycle track was a concern. So there was absolute validation at the working group that that's not something that fits our community. It may fit other communities, but it doesn't fit ours. So we had an open conversation about opportunities to improve that design. We had discussions about custom signage programs where there's cyclists, as an example, would have a yield to wheelchair users or accessible to get away from that pedestrian type signage. Have clear or blue painting or hatching that would clearly delineate these spaces and the offloading space from everything else, so that the space is clearly designated, visible, and exclusive for accessible use. There was talks about the possibility of putting stencils on the cycle track in shared areas. It was thrown out there as an opportunity. And another key item, again taking a bit of inspiration from the Federal Highway Administration, was can we reduce the track where it passes, and that again is another common design practice, so we looked at that as well. Other key and important themes that came away from that workshop is we need a publication a public education program around cycling for an opening day so that we get the messages out, how they will function, educate users and the public. It has been done elsewhere, but it's not something that needs to be overlooked. Also in the discussions, there was also, the concern come up, returning back to the conversation of the buildings and the buildings not being accessible, and how can we accelerate that? And one of the things we heard was, could the community improvement program, as an example that's administered through planning, be used as a funding tool to start to get buildings converted? Now, that would have a policy discussion, most certainly at the community, because those types of upgrades are not inexpensive. But again, when it came to building renovations, I think it's important that, if anything, the town is viewed as a partner and not the exclusive funding authority on private infrastructure. So that takes us to the current concept. So in the slide, what you'll see is the revised design that was established through the dialogue of the working group, and I'll just take you through again, just so everyone is familiar. All of the spaces are located. It would be the first parallel parking space on your right as you pass through an intersection. So a lot of that has to do with picking those locations, is to make sure that the sight lines generally are very good, very open at intersections, so it's important that everyone can see everyone. Hence, that's why the accessible spaces, the designated ones, are shown in those locations. We took that design and we looked at that supplemental width beyond the edge of the, we'll call it the parking bay. We took that original dimension and we increased it to 2.3 meters. That provided the length for a typical 4-foot ramp, and also allowed the opportunity for when an individual deploys from an accessible van that they have the ability to safely sit in a designated zone while perhaps the ramp is retracted into the vehicle, as an example, and then not have to worry about concerns about any oncoming cyclists. So this design, overall width that you see here is 5.05 meters. And just to give context, when we go back to that integrated accessibility standard, that the dimension of a van accessible space on private property is 4.9 meters. So we've produced the concept here that meets and exceeds that current on-site standard. So in absence of a clear-cut design that we have to follow, we're trying to replicate that in a on-street environment. So we have 2.3 meters there. You'll see the cycle track. It's very hard to see the dimensions there, but the cycle track will narrow from 1.8 meters to 1.2 meters. And again, that is an accepted standard for a reduced cycle lane near an obstruction. Again, you see that in the Federal Highway Administration guidelines. And I should add, I mean, if you take cues from, say, multi-use pathways, you see some of them in Ottawa that have a painted line down the center. Quite often the cyclist gets 1.2 meters and the pedestrian gets the other 1.2 where they're crossing. So again, subscribing to that theory of one-way flow, it seems to work with the design. So we actually did not, we didn't move the cycle track out, we just kept it straight further. So in the previous designs, and I'll just slip back to the original. So you'll see in the original design that the cycle track came in off the side street and it jutted out very closely to the street closely. So we essentially extended the length a little bit further to create the space we need, and in combination with the narrowing of the cycle track by that space, we were able to achieve the target clearance that we were after. So the design that we previously showed, this was circulated amongst the working group members. It was also circulated directly with Mr. Hogan, and we went through those dimensions together. And we're very pleased to report that we have overall support from certainly the accessible working group members, that we have an improved accessible design here from where we were. The design that you're seeing this evening is fully supported by Mr. Hogan again, who was key to bringing the forefront of the concerns in the original design. And, you know, the key message I want to leave with the committee, kind of as a wrap up in this presentation, is this isn't textbook design. There's quite a bit of subjectivity involved when you're in a street environment. We're accomplishing something here that we don't have anywhere else in the downtown, and that's a place for rear ramp deployment. Again, in an exclusive side ramp location that's going to be providing increased service to those with accessibility needs. And this design, I think, kind of represents quite a bit of pioneering, if we want to call it that. And we've taken the Federal Highway Administration designs and we've made them even more accessible. And who knows, this concept may end up in a textbook someday. So anyways, this is where we've concluded those discussions, and we feel we have a much improved accessible design, and this concept you're seeing would be replicated in the location of all 6 spaces in Phase 1. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Dunlop. Thank you. So I understand from speaking to Director Dunlop that there's no need for a motion or resolution coming out of this. It's strictly a piece of information for us to consider. And that relates in large part to the fact that there's no monetary change in the value of construction resulting from the revision that is being proposed, and there is no proposed change to the scope of work for the proposal. So in that regard, if council has any questions for information based on accessibility needs, I think we'll try and keep our discussion focused on that tonight. But we'll open the floor. Do I have any hands? No? Oh, Malcolm has one. No, you don't? Okay, never mind. Councillor Allen?
Just a comment. I'd like to thank the members of that group. I think it was important that we heard from them. Also, I was wondering, Director Dunlop, if it was mentioned at that group that we're hoping to have an accessibility committee, and would those people be part of that? Or was it something that we haven't discussed yet?
Through the chair, absolutely. That was actually the closing comment at the meeting was, you know, we need to get an accessible committee rolling, and albeit maybe mentioned from one of the individuals in the room that certainly said that there was a wealth of resources and knowledge in the room that perhaps a lot of those names and faces might be sitting on a future committee, and would be encouraged, I think, to extend their candidacy for something like that.
That's great.
Oh, Madam Chair, I do want to indicate again the presentation materials from the that I just went through are uploaded on the town's webpage for Beckwith Street. This concept will be added to there shortly. The minutes from the actual session were just finalized today. They were circulated to council. We also get those uploaded as well. But again, what I reported as the takeaways this evening are exactly the key takeaways on accessibility that we left the day with as well.
Perfect. Thank you, Troy. Councillor McGuire?
Thank you. CAO Morris, is there an update on the timeline for getting that committee off the ground? I think we've got a draft terms of reference, but
Chair, we're actively working on finalizing the terms of reference. We'll bring those back to committee for endorsement, and then we'll seek members at that time.
okay.
I would think in the month of September we'll have the draft terms of reference before committee.
Excellent, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Penkow?
Yeah, I just want to, I guess, commend Director Dunlop and working with Parsons and really breaking new ground and taking best practices from a number of places and finding the best of that and coming up with a solution which I think when it's supported and endorsed by those who are used the most is truly the most meaningful. So, but thanks for the guidance from the Accessibility Committee and from Mr. Marshall coming to us. Again, result is something better than we otherwise would have had.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Seeing no further comment, thank you, Director Dunlop. We will close our priority issues. We have no further in-camera issues for tonight due to the nature of the meeting, nor do we have standing items, so I will call for adjournment. Councillor Brennan, seconded by Councillor McKenna. All in favor? Thank you. Oh, sorry, we will be back in 5 minutes. There's a council meeting that follows. We're just adjourning Committee of the Whole for those of you who are confused. Also, I want to take the opportunity, we talked about the fact that the elevator's out. Art is the man with the key. If you have concerns, please see him. Thank you.
But they're watching, so they'll know when to put dinner on.
Oh, thanks. Bam! Get through her. Nothing appearing in my calendar. And I don't know why. Like, none of my meetings appear. That seems odd. Very odd.
Isn't there a law against putting signs up without people? Well, I mean, I'm just baffled at the signage without the...
Gotta get the damn chair out of the way. Ooh, blinded here.
Friends of the Library book sale this year was sold out in record time. And again, we made a considerable amount of money that helps with our children's reading program in the summer. As well, the heritage plaques that have been updated and refurbished around town on the historic sites. If you haven't had a chance to check them out, do so. These were part of our historic walking tours that have taken place each Saturday throughout the summer months and have been very well attended and appreciated. Our very own Tony Humphrey and Dorothy Hudson were the two people who led those, and I think some of you took advantage of those. They were very well attended. The Inflatable Water Activity Center, I just want to say a shout out to our director that came up with that idea. I know when we're down there, I see it being used even this very week in the cold water. I'm sure that the kids are having lots of fun on it, so it's been a very useful thing. The Railway Museum, I'm just going to read this little bit that they sent me. It's not working? Sorry. This year was another successful train fest. In fact, it was our most successful year yet, with over 1,800 visitors and just over 15,000 net dollars raised in support of the museum, of which we received 4,000 from generous community sponsors. The complete train ride sold out already. The train rides sell for Station 9, three-quarter event, but the public's still welcome to join us for that day, 2 to 9, through general admission to enjoy the museum, vendors in the magical wizarding world. Also, some of you may already be aware, but the museum is in the process of purchasing a new car, a dining car, that they're going to add to their property and hopefully be able to use for events. And the day, we'll try to keep citizens updated because just it getting here, I think, is going to be quite an interesting event in itself. They had to measure our, the underpass and so on, and it'll be coming on a very large bed car or rail car, I guess, for these sorts of things. But those are my reports. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor McKenna?
Nothing to report, Mayor.
Councillor Alford?
Nothing this evening.
Give a repeat of the real updates that I gave last week. A reminder that on September 14th, Real is hosting their Monarch Garden Party between 1 and 3. If you haven't gone to check out the beautiful Monarch butterfly display that they have installed on the front lawn, please do so. It's truly gorgeous and it's really in full bloom right now. So it'll be a good sight to see. Also on September 14th, I understand that we are hosting Doors Open, which is really exciting, between 10 and 3. So we invite all members of the public to check out the details that are available, and you can find that by searching Doors Open on Google and selecting local Smiths Falls. So hopefully we see everybody there. I do have an update about the Harvest Dinner, but the date fails me, and I'm hoping that Peter has it. October 21st. Get your tickets for the Harvest Dinner. And besides that, I just wanted to say that headed into fall, thank you. Oh, Chris has it. October 19th. Thank you. The only other update I wanted to give was, given that we are heading into fall, I think it's important to draw attention to the fact that the food bank is always in need, especially in the lead up to Thanksgiving. So if it crosses your mind the next time you're at the grocery store, please think about dropping something off in the bin at the grocery store or taking it directly to the food bank. Okay, thank you.
Nothing tonight, thanks.
From August 18th to 21st, along with Councillor McKenna, I attended the AMO Municipal Conference in Ottawa. Participated in 3 different ministerial delegations. We had a multi-ministerial, including Ministers Mulroney, Phillips, and Clark, and the additional parliamentary assistants meeting with the Eastern Ontario Mayor's Caucus. So this is an advocacy group of 10 single-tier municipalities in Eastern Ontario. We talked addressed Mr. Phillips with the Ontario Municipal Partnership Fund. We also received notification at that meeting that the
formulas likely will not be changing for 2020, which is good news for us. Our allocation could change when it goes through the allocation process, but for all intents and purposes, it's going to be a reflection of 2019. We also discussed the Ontario health reforms. Safety and expansion of Highway 401 Eastern Ontario has long been a priority for this group. A lot of municipalities along the 401 corridor, and of course, all of us who from time to time probably travel the 401, recognizing how busy it is and how important safety is. We also discussed infrastructure funding and, of course, the need for more predictable, sustainable infrastructure funding. We also had a road delegation, as mentioned before, we would be having, with Minister of Government and Consumer Services, Lisa Thompson, regarding care and maintenance funds for Elkhorn Cemetery. And we simply want to advocate that the current perpetual care fund, which is in excess of $500,000, does not provide a lot of benefit to the community, or to the municipality, or to the cemetery itself, and all we can do is draw mass amounts of interest off of that each year. And our intention really is to allow us to use that for further cemetery improvements and upgrades, understanding that the long-term sustainability of the cemetery is a core municipal responsibility, and we shouldn't be required to hold money in a reserve in perpetuity when we have the ability to support it otherwise. We also had a delegation with Minister of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs, Ernie Hardeman, to seek an extension on the use of our $933,000 Ontario Community Infrastructure Funding for Beckwith Street redevelopment. It was a very encouraging discussion, and I'll speak more of that in a little while. Also attended numerous informative and educational sessions on cyber breaches and ransomware attacks. Some Ontario municipalities were hit quite hard last year. Two they featured. The ransomware was only about $35,000, but the ultimate cost of the municipalities was around $250,000 by the time they got everything up and running again. Reassuring to understand that our staff have taken some strong measures to protect us from ransomware attacks and from cyber attacks, and always trying to look for ways to improve and ensure that we are well protected. Also had an impact session on the assessment methodology for cannabis facilities, of course very relevant to our community. Another one on school bus safety and some new measures which could be possible in the future there. Affordable housing, which of course our council has set that as our #1 strategic priority during this term. Some great insight into affordable housing. Preparing for climate disruption. I don't think a day goes by we don't hear more concerning news about climate change and disruption and how we can prepare municipally. Promoting rural economic development and making cannabis retail work in our community. So very, very informative sessions. I know Councillor McKenna attended a number of informative sessions as well. And it's really, it's the opportunity for us as municipal officials to learn more we can bring back to help benefit our community. That's it for my report. We have a number of bylaws this evening, and motions, so we'll start. Our first bylaw is with Councillor Allen, please. The motion.
Yeah, this is a motion.
The motion. Oh, sorry, okay. Sorry, the motion before the bylaw is a motion from Councillor Allen.
Yes, moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Alford. Revised costing Ottawa Greenbelt construction. That the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Smiths Falls accept the revised costing as identified in Report 2019-107 provided by Ottawa Greenbelt Construction Company Limited, resulting from the non-binding discussions.
Thank you. Discussion, Councillor Allen?
Yes, Director Dunlop met with Ottawa Greenbelt Construction Company Limited, and having considered all the variables impacting pricing, they believe that the $1,361,390 in proposed bid reductions provides far more value to the town over the original bid. The contractor's offering of an open construction schedule and fixed pricing through 2020 also provides an attractive offering for the town in proceeding with the project. The first phase of the downtown is arguably the most complex phase of the Beckwith Street renewal, and securing the proper resources will therefore be essential. And it's just such a good news story that 65% is going to be funded by grants, and that's a good news.
Further discussion?
Moving forward.
Councillor Brennan?
Yeah, I'd just like a recorded vote, please.
Councillor Dwyer?
Thank you. I just wanted to jump in and add that despite the fact that my position on the awarding of the contractual agreement does not change, I will not be voting in favor of it. I don't have an issue in principle with the idea of accepting revised costing. And as a result, I will actually be voting in favor of this motion. I think it shows a lot of credit to Director Dunlop for his hard work on this project. And any way that we can get to reduce the cost expenditure on this, I think is good value. So in that regard, I will be voting in favor, but not on the passing of the bylaw.
Thank you. More discussion? Pardon?
Use this one.
Okay, they're fading in and out. It is moved by Councillor Allen, second by Councillor Alford, revised costing, Ottawa Greenbelt Construction. The Council of the Corporation of the Town of Smiths Falls accept the revised costing as identified in report number 2019-107, provided by Ottawa Greenbelt Construction Limited, resulting from the non-binding discussions, and recorded vote has been requested. Sorry. Oh, yeah.
With respect to the revised costing Ottawa Greenbelt construction resolution, please state yea or nay. Councillor Alford?
Yay.
Councillor Allen?
Yay.
Councillor Brennan?
Nay.
Councillor Dwyer?
Yay.
Councillor McGuire?
Yay.
Councillor McKenna?
Yay.
Mayor Panko?
Yay.
Carried.
They move to bylaw 7.1, which is with Councillor Alford. Please.
Thank you. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor McKenna, that a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to enter into a contractual agreement with Ottawa Greenbelt Construction Company Limited to undertake the Beckwith Street redevelopment Phase 1 construction work be now read a third time and be read first time and taken as read a second time.
Thank you. It is moved by Councillor Alford, second by Councillor McKenna. Bylaw 10071-2019, the bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to enter into a contractual agreement with Ottawa Greenbelt Construction Company Limited to undertake the Beckwith Street redevelopment Phase 1 construction work be received read a first time and taken as read a second time. All in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Discussion, Councillor Alford?
Yes, Your Worship. Along with the funding agreement that with the province that was passed in a vote of 6-0 last week, this bylaw is the final piece needed to begin the revitalization and redevelopment of our downtown. The vision of carrying out a redevelopment has been discussed for many years, and now has been in the strategic plan of many councils. So, as I said before, it's been a long and winding road, and we have finally arrived.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Yes, Councillor Brennan?
Yeah, another recorded vote, if you may, please.
Okay. I'll ask for third reading, please.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor McKenna, that a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to enter into a contractual agreement with Ottawa Greenbelt Construction Company Limited to undertake the Beckwith Street redevelopment Phase 1 construction work be now read a third time and finally passed, signed, sealed, and numbered 10071-2019.
Thank you. It is moved by Councillor Alford, second by Councillor McKenna, bylaw 10071-2019. The bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to enter into a contractual agreement with Ottawa Greenbelt Construction Limited to undertake the Beckwith Street redevelopment Phase 1 construction work, being now read a third time and finally passed, signed, sealed, and numbered 10071-2019. A recorded vote has been requested.
With respect to bylaw 10071-2019, please state yea or nay. Councillor Alford?
Yay.
Councillor Allen?
Yay.
Councillor Brennan?
Nay.
Councillor Dwyer?
Nay.
Councillor McGuire?
Yay.
Councillor McKenna?
Yay.
Mayor Panko?
Yay.
Carried.
Our next bylaw is with Councillor Dwyer, please.
Thank you, Mayor Panko. moved by myself, seconded by Councillor McGuire, bylaw 10072-2019, being a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute site plan control agreement with 1686994 Ontario Inc., being Parkview Homes, for the property described as Block 7 on Plan 27M83 and known locally as part of the Bellamy Farms subdivision, be received and read a first time and taken and read a second time.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Dwyer, second by Councillor McGuire, bylaw 10072-2019, that a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute a site plan control agreement with, I better put my glasses on so I can read those numbers right. 1686994 Ontario Inc., Parkview Homes, for the property described as Block 7 of Plan 27M-83 and known locally as a part of the Bellamy Farm subdivision. Be received, read a first time, and taken as read a second time. All in favor? Carried. Opposed? Okay. Discussion, Councillor Dwyer?
Thank you. This application is one in a series that we will be passing tonight. It pertains to a site plan control application, which is the final stage in registering townhomes on Phase 1 of Bellamy Farms. We're excited to see Parkview moving ahead with this project, and I'm sure Parkview is excited to see this moving ahead. Yes. So I don't believe we had any objections to the idea of townhomes on this stretch of the street, and so we are passing it in favor.
Thank you. Third reading, please.
Thank you. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor McGuire, bylaw 10072-2019, being a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute a site plan control agreement with 1686994 Ontario Inc., being Parkview Homes, for the property described as Block 7 of Subdivision Plan 27M83 and known locally as part of the Bellamy Farms subdivision, be read, signed, sealed, and numbered 10072-2019.
Thank you. It's moved by Councillor Dwyer, second by Councillor McGuire, bylaw 10072-2019. The bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute a site plan control agreement with 1686994 Ontario Inc., in brackets Parkview Homes, for the property described as Block 7 of Plan 27M-83 and known locally as part of the Bellamy Farm subdivision, be read, signed, sealed, and numbered 10072-2019. All in favor? Carried. Opposed? It's carried. On to Councillor McKenna. You have the next bylaw.
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Alford that bylaw number 10073-2019, that a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute a site plan control agreement with 1686994 Ontario Inc., Parkview Homes, for the property described as Block 8 of Plan 27M-83 and known locally as part of the Bellamy Farm subdivision, be received and read a first time and taken as read a second time.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor McKenna, second by Councillor Alford. Bylaw 10073-2019, the bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute a site plan control agreement with 1686994 Ontario Inc., in brackets Parkview Homes, for the property described as Block 8 of Plan 27M-83 and known locally as a part of the Bellamy Farm subdivision, be received, read a first time, and taken as read a second time. All in favor? Carried. Discussion, Councillor McKenna?
Councillor Dwyer did a really nice job summarizing the previous bylaw. This is just a separate block on that same discussion, and I share her enthusiasm as well as our friends from Parkview in moving forward.
Third reading, please.
So, again, moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Alford, that a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute a site plan control agreement with 1686994 Ontario Inc., Parkview Homes, for the property described as Block 8 of Plan 27M-83 and known locally as part of the Bellamy Farm subdivision, be read, signed, sealed, and numbered 10073-2019.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor McKenna, second by Councillor Alford. Bylaw 10073-2019, the bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute a site plan control agreement with 1686994 Ontario Inc., in brackets Parkview Homes, for the property described as Block 8 of Plan 27M-83 and known locally as a part of the Bellamy Farm subdivision. Be read, signed, sealed, and numbered 10073-2019. All in favor? Carried. Councillor Brennan, you're up next.
Thank you. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor McGuire, that a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute a site plan control agreement with 686994 Ontario Inc. Parkview Homes for the property described as Block 9, Plan 27M-83, known locally as a part of Bellamy Farm subdivision, be received and read a first time and taken as read a second time.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Brennan, second by Councillor McGuire. Bylaw 10074-2019. The bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute a site plan control agreement with 1686994 Ontario Inc. in brackets Parkview Homes. The property described as Block 9 of Plan 27M-83 and known locally as a part of the Bellamy Farm subdivision. We received read a first time and taken as read a second time. All in favor? It's carried. Discussion, Councillor Brennan?
Well, this is the third bylaw for the same subdivision, so Parkview's going pretty good here, and we're really happy, and it's much needed development in town, so I want to thank Parkview for their confidence in Smiths Falls. So.
Thank you. Third reading, please.
Thank you. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor McGuire, that a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute a site plan control agreement with 1686994 Ontario Inc. Parkview Homes for the property described as Block 9, Plan 27M-83, and known locally as part of the Bellamy Farm subdivision, be read, signed, sealed, and numbered 174-2019.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Brennan, second by Councillor McGuire. Bylaw 10074-2019. That a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute a site plan control agreement with 1686994 Ontario Inc. in brackets Parkview Homes. The property described as Block 9 of Plan 27M-83, known locally as part of the Bellamy Farm subdivision, be read, signed, sealed, and numbered 10074-2019. All in favor? Carried. Ken, you can go and start building some homes now. I know people are waiting. Thank you. Councillor McGuire, you're up next.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Dwyer that a bylaw to regulate the operation of all-terrain vehicles on municipal highways within the town of Smith Falls be received and read a first time and taken as read a second time.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor McGuire, seconded by Councillor Dwyer. Bylaw 10075-2019, that a bylaw to regulate the operation of all-terrain vehicles on municipal highways within the town of Smith Falls be received and read a first time and taken as read a second time. All in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Discussion?
So this is the
Dwyer?
beginning of our ATV trail pilot. It's important to note that due to the provincial regulations, ATVs would have been allowed on all streets in town if we didn't pass this, so we're proactive on that side of things. And we will be opening up the forum for public input on how the trail's going. So if you're out there and you've got a strong opinion on this issue, the public input will be coming soon.
Good. Third reading, please.
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Dwyer that a bylaw to regulate the operation of all-terrain vehicles on municipal highways within the town of Smith Falls be read, signed, sealed, and numbered 10,075-2019.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor McGuire, second by Councillor Dwyer. Bylaw 10075-2019, that a bylaw to regulate the operation of all-terrain vehicles on municipal highways within the town of Smith Falls be read, signed, sealed, and numbered 10075-2019. All in favor? Carried. And Councillor Brennan, you've got the next bylaw.
Thank you. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor McGuire, that a bylaw to authorize execution of a trail access agreement with the Rideau Lakes ATV Club respecting seasonal access over lands described as Concession 6 South Part Lot 1 and 2, Concession 5 North Elmsley, referred to as Municipal Compost Site, 3450 Highway 43 West, a portion of the former bed of the Canadian National Railway within the Lombard Street Business Park, referred to as Cataraqui Trail, be received and read a first time and taken as read a second time.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Brennan, second by Councillor McGuire. Bylaw 10076-2019, that a bylaw to authorize execution of a trail access agreement with the Rideau Lakes ATV Club respecting seasonal access over the lands described as Concession 6 South, Part Lot 1 and 2, Concession 5 North Elmsley, referred to as the Municipal Compost Site, 3450 Highway 43 West, a portion of the former bed of the Canadian National Railway within the Lombard Street Business Park, referred to as Cataraqui Trail, be received, read a first time, is taken as read a second time. All in favor? Carried. Discussion, Councilor Allen?
This is a companion bylaw for the previous one. In this we established a partnership with the Rideau Lakes ATV Club, who is represented here. Nice to see you, Rick. And we look forward to working with them in this pilot. So congratulations.
Third reading, please.
Moved by myself, second by Councilor McGuire, that a bylaw to authorize execution of a trail access agreement with Rideau Lakes ATV Club respecting seasonal access over the lands described as Concession 6 South Part, Lot 1 and 2, Concession 5 North Elmsley, referred to as Municipal Compost Site 3450 Highway 43 West, a portion of the former rail bed of the Canadian National Railway within the Lombard Street Business Park, referred to as Cataraqui Trail, be read, signed, sealed, and numbered 10076, 2019.
Thank you. Moved by Councilor Brennan, second by Councilor McGuire, bylaw 10076-2019, that a bylaw to authorize execution of a trail access agreement with the Rideau Lakes ATV Club respecting seasonal access over the lands described as Concession 6 South, Part Lots 1 and 2, Concession 5 North Elmsley, referred to as Municipal Compost Site 3450 Highway 43 West, a portion of the former bed of the Canadian National Railway within Lombard Street Business Park, referred to as Cataraqui Trail, be read, signed, sealed, and numbered 10076-2019. All in favor? Carried. That's it for our bylaws. Councilor McGuire, you're up with our first miscellaneous motion.
Thank you, Mayor Penko. We've got, thanks, Corey. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Dwyer that a radio system for the Smith Falls Police Service, that the Corporation of the Town of Smith Falls authorize 2020 pre-budget approval estimated at $150,000 for the purchase of a radio system for the Smith Falls Police Service, and 2, that the Chief of Police to prepare the tender documents and proceed through the procurement process for the radio system. And further, that the Chief of Police will report back to Council with the results of the procurement process.
Thank you. Discussion, Councilor McGuire?
As we heard at the committee the whole last night, our radio system's aging. This is necessary to, it's been part of the asset management plan. It's due to be replaced. And from an engineering perspective, it's cool that they'll be using an IP-based system. So that is all.
Any further discussion? Moved by Councilor McGuire, second by Councilor Dwyer, radio system for the Smith Falls Police Service. The Council of the Corporation of the Town of Smith Falls authorize 2020 pre-budget approval estimated at $150,000 for the purchase of radio system from the Smith Falls Police Service. Chief of Police to prepare tender documents and proceed through the procurement process for the radio system. And further, the Chief of Police will report back to Council with the results of the procurement process. All in favor? Carried. And our final motions with Councilor Allen.
Yes, moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Alford. Award of tender 19 PW 101 for purchase of articulated front end loader. That the council or the corporation of the Town of Smith Falls awards the bid of $279,544 plus HST from Nortrax Canada Inc. for the purchase of a new loader. And that council accept the credit of $41,000 for the optional trade-in of the 2000 John Deere 554H loader. And further, that the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign any necessary documentation.
Discussion, Councilor Allen?
Yes, at our last committee of whole, Director Dunlop talked to us about the fact that there were only 2 tenders put in, but that this piece of equipment is very vital to the ongoing ongoing work that we do in the Town of Smith Falls, so we need it, and thought that the trade-in value was going to be helpful, and we need this piece of equipment ASAP.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Moved by Councilor Allen, second by Councilor Alford. Award of tender 19-PW-101 for purchase of articulated front-end loader. The Council of the Corporation of the Town of Smith Falls awards a bid of $279,544 plus HST from Nortrax Canada Inc. for the purchase of a new loader. And the Council will accept the credit of $41,000 for the optional trade-in of the 2000 John Deere 544H loader in brackets number 5-1068. And further, the mayor and the clerk be authorized to sign any necessary documentation. All in favor? Carried. Inquiries or announcements? Yes, Councillor Alford?
Just one, Your Worship. As it happens, I sit on both of these committees, and this is the first time that I'm aware of that the Chamber of Commerce and the Downtown Business Association are putting on a party together. The Bustle on Russell will be October the 4th, and keep looking for your newsletters and emails about it. It's going to be fun. I understand that Councillor Brennan has agreed to participate in the dunk tank.
I
That's what
volunteered the entire council for that.
Oh, you did?
I'm going to be in Peterborough.
Wear your swimming suit. We'll delay the
Yes,
event.
October 4th.
October 4th, from 2:30 to 10. There'll be music, food, and beverages.
We will
And the
hope,
street will be closed.
hope for sunny skies, warm temperatures, and even warmer water. Councillor Dwyer, you have a motion for adjournment?
Oh, sorry, can I actually make one more inquiry and
Oh,
announcement?
sure.
Sorry, I missed. It would be remiss upon me if I didn't announce that Dancing with the Stars, or Dancing with Our Stars, will be hosted by the local hospital on Saturday, October 5th. This is guaranteed to be a good show. I understand it's going to be at Hanley Hall at 6 p.m. until 1 p.m., so drink some coffee beforehand. Tables tickets are $75 and a table is $500, seats 8. Some of the dancers include Christine Fair, Cindy Marks Blanchard, Andrew Howard, Chris Samir, Jamie Schooler, and Nancy Shaw. So if you have any interest in watching people dance themselves silly, I would encourage you to get some tickets.
Well, I'm really grateful they didn't ask any of us to
I was going to say, I'm surprised your name's not on here,
Oh,
Sean.
yeah, if you see me dancing, no better. If we've all recovered from the hypothermia from the day before, hopefully we can all make it the next day to the Hospital Foundation function. Yeah. Okay, you get the motion for adjournment.
Thank you. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor McGuire, that this council adjourn its proceedings at 6:19 p.m. and stand so adjourned until the next duly called meeting of council.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Dwyer, seconded by Councillor McGuire. That this council adjourn its proceedings at 6:19 p.m. and stand so adjourned to the next duly called meeting of council. All in favor? We are adjourned.
Hey.
Could you please repeat it next council?
Yes.
And say that it's for the Hospital Foundation?